Just the fact that our Department of Agriculture is putting up this kind of money specifically for promotion of hemp products grown, manufactured, and produced in Pennsylvania, that's success right there.
That's Cameron McIntosh, board member of the Pennsylvania Hemp Industry Council, which was just awarded $150,000 by the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture to promote Pennsylvania hemp. This is the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. My name is Eric Herlock, and today we're going to talk to the entire board of the Pennsylvania Hemp Industry Council. That's right, we've got 5 guests today. Erica Stark, Cynthia Petrone-Hudock, Lori Daytner, Drew Oberholtzer, and Cameron McIntosh. We're going to hear all about the newly revised, newly energized Pennsylvania Hemp Industry Council, what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, how they're going to measure success, all of that stuff and more. First, a quick sponsor break, and then we'll come back with a few updates and news nuggets. This episode is brought to you in part by King's Agri-Seeds in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. King's Agri-Seeds is working with a network of fiber and grain processors who are developing capacity in the Mid-Atlantic region. Demand is growing, and King's Agri-Seeds is here, ready to help you meet that demand. Contact King's Agri-Seeds today to learn more about these opportunities. Call 717-687-6224 to learn more, or go to kingsagriseeds.com. This episode is brought to you in part by IND Hemp in Fort Benton, Montana, where they believe in the goodness of hemp. IND Hemp is a family-owned, mission-driven, and environmentally focused industrial hemp food, feed, and fiber company, providing new opportunities for farmers and rural communities. Their mission is to provide innovative agricultural products and services to connect American farmers with the pioneers and businesses that see hemp as a way to bring real and lasting change to our communities and planet. Learn more at indhemp.com. All right, welcome back to today's show. So here we are. It's March 8th, 2023. I am sitting in the new podcast studio at the Lancaster Farming offices in Ephrata, Pennsylvania. And we've got some nuggets of hemp news for you today. The first is news out of Washington, D.C., got a press release from Congresswoman Shelley Pingree's office saying that Congresswoman Shelley Pingree, alongside Representatives David Trone, David Joyce, and Nancy Mace, introduced bipartisan legislation to end the unfair drug felony prohibition for hemp farmers. The Free to Grow Act would expand economic opportunities for formerly incarcerated individuals. Despite the fact that Congress legalized hemp farming under the Farm Bill in 2018, the law prohibits people with a felony drug conviction within the past 10 years from cultivating hemp. This is especially troublesome considering that the annual value of U.S. hemp production has grown to over $800 million. By preventing formerly incarcerated individuals from participating in a growing industry, we are further exacerbating their potential inability to start a business and thrive financially. All right, there you go. I do have calls into Congressman Trone's office, and I spoke to the folks at Shelley Pingree's office this morning, and they said, hey, David Trone is the lead on this legislation, so talk to them first. So I did wait to hear back, but I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk to Congresswoman Pingree at some point. So, all right, moving on. This next one isn't really news per se, but it's a really interesting perspective from India. I saw this on the timesofindia.com, and the headline says, Why India is Losing the $1 trillion Hemp Economy. And this story was written by Harshavardhan Reddy Sarupa. And I'll just read a couple of paragraphs here. It says that in 1930, Britishers banned cannabis, citing its unscientific negative effects, to introduce alcohol to India, which is addictive. Until then, bhang was legal. I guess that's the Indian word for cannabis. And unfortunately, even after 72 years of independence, we are following Britishers' policy on cannabis, conveniently ignoring cannabis use in Ayurveda. The colonial mindset has still not vanished. The lie that cannabis is a dangerous drug has just made India lose the most valuable and environment-friendly hemp market to other countries. Hemp grows across the country, especially in northern Indian states. Unlike any other country, we can produce it all across the country in all seasons. With vast agricultural land and more than 5.5% of barren lands yet to be utilized, India can be a global leader in hemp industry if and only if the policy at the root level is changed. By 2030, the global hemp industry can reach over $1 trillion, the story says, led by medicines, fiber for composites, bricks and paper industries, and fast-moving consumer goods sectors. Is India with a colonial mindset, just like the 1960s when we lost the semiconductor industry? Are we losing the hemp industry to other countries, the story asks. So for me, this is fascinating because, of course, I want the hemp industry to succeed everywhere, right? In Europe, in Asia, in Africa, in North and South America, in Australia, everywhere. We all need to be growing industrial hemp in vast, vast quantities. All right, and finally, one more nugget of news here. Not so much hemp news, but this is agriculture news. So I don't know if you know about this, but there was a 3-day event held in Washington this week. Farmers marched on Washington. It was part of the Farmers for Climate Action Rally for Resilience. And guess what? Lancaster Farming was there. In fact, my colleague Dan Sullivan is there right now. So hey, let's go to the phones and talk to Dan. All right, Dan Sullivan, are you there?
Yes, I am.
So you're down in Washington, D.C. right now. What's going on down there? What are you seeing?
So there's a farmers march down here for climate resilience. And also bringing a message to Congress that these farmers and farm organizations want to bring BIPOC farmers into the conversation around the 2023 Farm Bill.
Okay.
And also a message of communities over corporations.
All right. Well, that's certainly a message I can get behind. This march was organized by the National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition. How was attendance? Were there a lot of people there?
Yeah, it was well attended.
Okay.
You know, there could have been more people. I think I would say several hundred up to pushing maybe, I would say several hundred, not quite 1,000 people marching.
Okay, that's pretty good. How about people you've met? Have you met some interesting farmers from around the country?
Yeah, I met a lot of really interesting folks, a lot of surprises. There was a woman who was speaking at the rally. Her name was Marielana Vega, and she was from the Idaho Organization of Resource Councils. And she's a farm worker, a migrant farm worker herself. And she just spoke at the press conference today, too. And she lives in this little tiny town in Idaho that's surrounded by hops, which I learned is now Idaho's second largest crop. I'm guessing the first is still potatoes. But, she says they're surrounded by these huge fields where there's a ton of pesticides. They don't really know what the pesticide effect is on their families. But she talked at the rally about, working in 120-degree heat, watching grandmothers who are 80 years old still, harvesting that last bucket of whatever it happens to be, and not having any social services, not having any sort of a net of protection. So really wanting to bring that to the Farm Bill, too, and connecting it to global warming because, it's only getting hotter for these migrant farm workers.
Right. Who else spoke at the rally?
Well, there was a young woman named Claudia Lentz. Now, she wasn't even on the agenda, but she was 21 years old. And what interested me about her talk is that she says that it's a misconception that young people don't want to farm. She said they just don't want to farm the status quo farming. They don't want to make their cattle herd as big as it can be. They don't want to farm thousands of acres of a monocrop. They're really interested in farming for the future, which is their future.
Yeah, amen to that. Who else did you meet?
I met this kid, Lawson Carson. He's 9 years old. And it took me a minute to get him rolling, but his mom, Crystal, is the executive vice president of the American Agriculture Movement. And his grandfather, Ryan Ripple, drove his tractor to Washington, D.C. in 1979 as part of what was the tractorcade, when farmers, again, were advocating for, what they called back then parity, but it's basically, they wanted to at least get paid the price of producing the crops, that they were selling in the marketplace. And so this guy drove his tractor in 1979, and they also brought a bull in 1979 that was like a huge sort of like photo op for the politicians. But they brought another bull this time, and they had some problems with the Park Service. And I got a couple calls yesterday that they were talking about impounding the bull. And I saw the kid at the press conference this morning. He said I was going to get arrested if they were going to mess with my bull. So, a 9-year-old kid, power to the people.
Yeah, right on. So one last question. Did you spend some time with John Cougar Mellencamp yesterday?
Yeah, well, I got a selfie with him. I didn't send that to you. I did, yeah. He was cool. He got up and he played a few songs. Farm Aid is actually hugely involved in this event too, and he had a few good words to say, which I don't remember right now, but you can read them in Latin.
That's right. Your story is going to be in the newspaper this Saturday, March 11th, but it's on the website now, and I'll put a link to that on the show page for this episode at lancasterfarming.com. All right. Well, Dan, thank you so much for your reporting. Appreciate the call today, and travel safe back here to PA.
Take it easy.
All right, so just a couple of other things before we get into our interview today. Just a reminder that we are giving away a pair of really nice Chelsea boots made out of hemp. They're from 8,000 Kicks. My interview last week with Bernardo, he agreed to give away a pair of boots to one of our lucky listeners. So that's all happening on Instagram. So go to our Instagram page and you'll see a photo of some boots. That's the one that you want to like. You want to make sure you're following our podcast and 8,000 Kicks and tag some of your friends in there. I think we said like 3 friends. All right, so do that, and then we'll select a winner. I know this is all very kind of loosey-goosey, but that's how we roll here on the Industrial Hemp Podcast. What else? Oh, yeah. Today is International Women's Day, so I want to give a big shout out to the women of the hemp industry. The paradigm shift that we need would not be happening without you. So, yeah, cheers to all the women out there, the women of the world, the women of the hemp industry. Yes, we need you. We love you. We thank you. We are glad to be here with you. And finally, today is also National Bioproducts Day, thanks to the USDA. I don't know if you heard my spiel last week about that, but hey, here's hoping you have a joyous Natural Bioproducts Day. All right, so that's enough from me. Let's get into our interview today with the folks from the Pennsylvania Hemp Industry Council. Today, we're going to talk to the board of directors of the newly revamped Pennsylvania Hemp Industry Council. I announced on the News Nuggets segment a few weeks ago that the Pennsylvania Hemp Industry Council was awarded $150,000 in grant money from the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture for a project called Project Invest in PA Hemp. And it represents 6 companies that have come together to attract investment in industrial hemp producers, agribusinesses, and entrepreneurs in Pennsylvania to grow supply chains, product development, and distribution. So first, we'll go around the room and introduce everybody. And you've all been on the show before, so welcome back to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. Let's start with Erica Stark.
First, thank you very much for having us, Eric. It's a pleasure to be here as always. So yes, I'm Erica Stark. I am the chair of the Pennsylvania Hemp Industry Council, and I'm also the executive director of the National Hemp Association, and I've been in that role for about 5.5 years now. So in that role, I have kind of a unique viewpoint of seeing things on a national level that I think is going to be really helpful in guiding what we do here in Pennsylvania, in seeing some of the challenges and the obstacles. And so also in that role, I've been extraordinarily focused on federal policy and legislation. As you probably know, like right now, we're really focused on getting the grain and fiber hemp exemption passed, which I think is going to be extraordinarily beneficial for Pennsylvania and the entire hemp industry across the country as well. So yeah, I've been doing this nonprofit stuff for, if you count the founding of PHIC, since 2015.
All right, thank you for that. Now let's go to Cynthia.
Sure. So I'm Cynthia Petrone-Hudock, and I actually own a Hemp-Alternative. It's a hemp grow here in the state of Pennsylvania. I partner with Jamie Hicks, who's a fourth-generation farmer, farms over 5,000 acres in the Chester County area. And we do everything from grain, fiber, cannabinoid grow. We also develop products for the marketplace consumer. And then we've engaged in relationships with Stroud Water Research Center to do some understanding of sort of what hemp's doing to our soil and our water. We've also engaged with Jefferson University to do some design engineering work around sustainable products for the horticulture industry. So it's been since, I guess, late 2018 when we put our organization together, and we're just plowing ahead and continuing to keep a focus on bringing PA hemp opportunities here to Pennsylvania.
Yes, I love that. All right, now let's go to Cameron McIntosh.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Eric, again for giving us the opportunity to let everybody know what we're doing here. My name is Cameron McIntosh. I'm the owner of Amerisham Cast Hemp here in Allentown, Pennsylvania. We're a hempcrete installation subcontracting firm, and we also supply materials and equipment specific for building with hempcrete. Done a lot of work on various organizations within the hemp ecosystem. Spent some time with the U.S. Hemp Building Association and participated heavily in the writing of the residential building code for using hempcrete. And also working with All Together Now out of Philadelphia, the nonprofit led by our good friend Judy Wicks.
All right, thank you, Cameron. Now let's go to Lori Daytner.
Again, Eric, thank you so much for bringing us all together and giving us the opportunity to talk about the work that we're so excited about doing now with Pennsylvania Hemp Industry Council. I'm Lori Daytner. I work with the Dawn Group of companies. We have a perhaps atypical starting point, which is the core of our work is disability rights advocacy. And that is because we are founded and owned by a medically retired veteran. So that will always be our focus. But how did we get into hemp? Well, de facto, with all of the work that we do in our community and in our region, with economic development, hemp and work for or economic opportunity for our farming neighbors seemed like a natural fit. So we just kind of morphed into it. Also, Chris Lloyd, our founder, was always interested in hemp for its environmental impacts. And so he started to invest in a hemp test acres program. We've developed relationships to help build and launch a industrial hemp production hub here, hopefully in Western Pennsylvania.
I would love a hemp production hub in Western Pennsylvania. Okay, and Drew, could you introduce yourself?
My name is Drew Oberholtzer, co-founder of Coexist Build, with a company I run with my wife, Anna Konopitskaya. It's an architectural design firm, as well as a research and development company that's focused on bringing new building materials and other materials to market. We currently manufacture the insulating hemp block, precast hemp block, and are creating the supply chain to commercially produce hemp bioplastics in eastern Pennsylvania. And we also operate a 10-acre research farm where we conduct seed to material analysis with various organizations like Rodale Institute, Thomas Jefferson University, as well as Alvernia University. I think that's enough for me.
Well, you've got a lot going on. You all do. So I appreciate you taking this time with me today. Back to Erica Stark. Erica, you were involved in sort of the founding of the Pennsylvania Hemp Industry Council back in the day, but this is a new group. You're sort of reinvigorated, re-energized. Can you talk about the changes and how it all came about?
So the Pennsylvania Hemp Industry Council was founded in 2015 by Jeff Whaling, myself, and my husband, Les. And we did a lot of great work in the beginning with advocating for the hemp bill and getting it over the finish line. But over the last several years, with being so busy and stuff, we sort of let it go dormant a little bit. And so what kind of happened was like how a lot of great things happen, just sort of it fell into place. When this grant opportunity came available in the state, it seemed like a perfect time to reinvigorate PHIC because a nonprofit needed to be the one to apply for this grant. And so it was the perfect vehicle to do it. I've known Cameron and Drew for pretty many years, way back when we had a first hemp field day at one of our test trials, I think back in 2017, maybe it was. Mm-hmm. And I also, had the pleasure of meeting Lori and Cynthia along the way and been admirers of their leadership and work for several years now. So there was just like this great synergy there. And it seemed like a great time to bring some fresh blood into PHIC and give it a little bit of a reboot. Jeff, who we owe a lot to for founding this, and Les are still advisors, and Jeff is now our chair emeritus. But we do have this new structure and new board, and super excited to see what we're all going to do together.
Well, I expect great things. Cynthia, can you talk about the main objective for pulling this group together to apply for this Pennsylvania promotional grant?
Sure, and a little bit about the grant, right? So it's an agricultural product promotion grant, and so its whole goal is sort of increasing customer awareness of agricultural products in the Commonwealth and educating producers and consumers with respect to these products and facilitating the growth and the development of export markets around the products. And so with that in mind, this is the best of the best that we've pulled together in terms of their dedication, their investment in time and money. These folks are all in it for the long haul, right? Including myself. And so it just seemed like the perfect team to sort of grasp what we can do with this funding from the Ag Department and help bring Pennsylvania on the map in the hemp industry. And we're really focused on shifting our message, right? So we're gonna shift our message from investing in growing hemp, because we've sort of proven in the state that can get done, to investing in sustainable product development through the use of hemp. And so if we can start to build those industries and we can capture the story of the consumer and the B2B demand and opportunities and what the supply chain can address, then I think we've been able to kind of shift our audience and our message, and really in all of that, retaining our open communication with the legislators in the state and with opportunities to change the way funding is coming to the industry, whether it's through appropriations or grants, and making it more pliable for us to all sort of embrace that funding and really bring up the ecosystem here in Pennsylvania.
So, Erica, why is this the right group of people at the right time?
Because they're the best of everything Pennsylvania has to offer. I've been admirers of each and every one of these people for several years now, and super excited to see how far. Like I said, I've known Cameron and Drew for a very long time, from when Drew first moved back to Pennsylvania, and Cameron, and they were just, like kind of starry-eyed and thinking about getting into the hemp industry, and to see how successful they've been in pushing the envelope and furthering this industry. Like, who could ask for more than this team I have around me right now?
Awesome. All right, so you applied for the grant from the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture. You were awarded something like $150,000 for promoting the hemp industry in Pennsylvania. So, Lori, can you talk about sort of what your project is, sort of the scope of it, and who your target audience is?
Sure. Well, the name of the project from the submission is Project Invest in PA Hemp. And I think that pretty clearly
That sums it up.
sums it up. We are working in this submission to bring investment to companies in Pennsylvania. So it takes on a wide scope with that. I mean, you have to do a lot of still education, outreach, raising awareness, but there's also the financial and commercial side of it, where investors may say, oh yeah, this piques my interest, but investors want numbers. They want an understanding of what's behind the opportunities that are here. And that is a really wide scope. And it starts with Pennsylvania farmers. So we have an unbelievable advantage, I believe, in that we have a very long agricultural history. Our farmers are used to being not monocrop, but diversification and diversifying, experimenting, trying new things. They're willing to do that, but they also need that partnership. So part of what we're doing is bringing all of that full circle. In this submission, we focused on 3 verticals, which are grain, textiles, and textiles is a broad category. It's not, immediately folks start to think about, clothing, which is certainly part of it, but it's wovens and non-wovens. So there are commercial aspects, say, for example, disinfectant wipes. That's a really clear, easy to understand example for the textiles category. And then finally, construction. So construction materials, there's been a lot of advancement in this particular vertical. We have resources in Pennsylvania, such as the Pennsylvania Housing Research Center, located at Penn State. We have folks who have been working in the construction vertical, represented by Drew and Cameron, certainly here, but by others. And so it's a wide scope. It's attracting investment. It's backing it up with a pitch deck, if you will, with a lot of components from all of those different pieces of that outreach.
Right. Okay. Drew, can you talk about the goal of the project?
The goal, I would say, is to develop and create a communication strategy that accomplishes just that, bringing investment into Pennsylvania for, Pennsylvania hemp companies, creating partnerships with public and private entities, so that what we've already created here in Pennsylvania can really compete on the marketplace. So it's really creating content and messaging and a cohesive brand that celebrates what is uniquely here in Pennsylvania to this audience, investors, as well as public entities. And then to maintain that through social media to connect with consumers as well.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, how are you going to reach these new audiences? What's the plan there? Or is this still sort of in the very beginning of the project?
I mean, the content will come in different forms. We're still developing that strategy and messaging around that. But a large component of that will certainly be through video content. But yeah, I mean, don't want to speak too much about the communication strategy, as we're still really developing that. But it's really creating a brand that's uniquely Pennsylvania hemp to attract investment.
Okay, so it's sort of like the PA Preferred program, but specifically for hemp. maybe?
Sort of, yeah.
Okay. Lori, can you explain what you've all committed to here, and then what does success look like?
Okay, so I'll start, but I'm sure that my colleagues are going to jump in and add to this. But in the submission, we had to be very specific about the scope of the outreach and being able to measure that. So since it is invest in PA Hemp, we are targeting investors of a certain caliber, of a certain profile. And as I said before, we're going to be working on that, but we have to bring in all of the other pieces and show them that we have everything that we need for this supply chain. So the messaging that Drew was referring to is going to reach everyone from, consumers to farmers to hemp product producers, everyone along that supply chain in those verticals that I talked about. But again, we have to deliver on the outreach. We have to prove that we've done that outreach, and that's again focused on making sure that those investors out there understand that we are positioned perfectly because we have every piece of that supply chain from seed to product. We have research capability in this state that far exceeds many others. So it's bringing all of that together.
Cool.
And Eric,
Yeah.
I think, what's key here is build demand, build demand, build demand, right? So from a grain perspective, we need food ingredient suppliers, right? We need chefs, we need restaurant owners, we need local food networks to be in really sort of embracing hemp, right? We need fabric dependent businesses to start looking at hemp as an alternative. And then certainly, as Cameron and Drew and Lori can attest to in the construction world, and you'll remember this, Eric, we had a great time with Cameron coming down and insulating one of our buildings. And my husband's, who's in mechanical contracting, called all his contractor friends and said, come see this, come see this. And their main question was, okay, what's the bottom line? Like, is it going to save me money or not? Right. So we need builders and designers and architects, and we need homeowners to say, I want to live in a eco-friendly house, right? Yeah. That's going to be healthy for me. Like the whole key here is what's healthy. And if you embed hemp in your lifestyle, you can't go wrong. And so I think it's sort of changing kind of the message and the target, but and continuing to build this demand at the consumer level. Right. That's what we're all focused on.
So as like an average citizen of Pennsylvania, can I expect to be seeing hemp messaging out in the world, like more so than I do now? Because all I see now for hemp out in the world are like Delta 8 CBD sold here, like how do you change the message? How do you craft that new message? How do you sort of separate from the existing, sort of focus on cannabinoids here?
I think, what we're attempting to do is, in how plastic is you look around your house or where you are, plastic isn't everything. So I think the hope and sort of the vision for the hemp industry is that in the future, you will look around and everything will be potentially made out of hemp. So the size of the hemp industry is huge. I guess the vision of the hemp industry is for, the 21st century of climate conscious consumers, health, all of those things, and hemp really plays a significant role in that. So, I think that's a very large part of our messaging and our content as well.
Okay. Cameron, can you talk about what success would look like?
Yeah, what does success look like for hemp in PA? I would say that you're looking at it. Just the fact that our Department of Agriculture is putting up this kind of money specifically for promotion of hemp products grown, manufactured, and produced in Pennsylvania, that's success right there. We're building off of successes that we've already seen here in Pennsylvania. Project PA Hemp Home was funded through essentially the same grant program that we're taking advantage of right now. And that was, as your listeners will recall, the first demonstration of hemp in a built environment for a residential home here in the state. And it was funded by the Department of Agriculture. I mean, that is success. That is the success of PA Hemp. That is the success of, the work that Erica and Jeff and Les, did, leading up to this. So, ultimately, we're really trying to influence, how that state funding is offered. We really want these political and, monetary financial investment tailwinds to continue carrying hemp here in Pennsylvania. So, what does success look like? It's like Drew just said. I think that, educating, putting out this messaging and educating people that are outside of the hemp and cannabis sphere, is always something that, personally for my own company, my own work, has been very important and very impactful. And here in PA, we're seeing that. It's not just the hemp organizations trying to scratch and claw their way to relevancy like you see in other states. We enjoy the full support of the Department of Agriculture, which is more than almost any other state in the country can say. And you can see that manifesting, in the work that we're doing, and the fact that we're getting recognition. I mean, the people that were exposed to hemp by, the promotional efforts around Project PA Hemp Home and Project PA Hemp Home in general, it's just astounding. I mean, they're like, the people that showed up to those events were not just hemp and cannabis enthusiasts there to, bang the drum and wave the flag. We're past that. So, we really want to see this hemp renaissance take hold here in Pennsylvania, and then kind of spread like wildfire, and doing it as a group collectively, working together, linking arms. That's also part of the success of the industry here in Pennsylvania, is that we don't work in a sheltered manner. We're not clandestine about what we're doing. We're very open. We link arms, we join together, we support each other, we celebrate each other's successes. And it is not just about the cannabinoid side of the plant, which, don't get me wrong, every one of us here has a relationship with the plant on the cannabinoid side, whether it's CBD or THC. That's not, in question here. We're not trying to alienate ourselves from that. It's definitely part of, the overall picture, but the promise of the plant, as we all believe, I think in this group speaking right now on the industrial side, is generational. It's a generational promise. There are 30 to 50 years worth of sustainable growth in front of us in the hemp industry for things like grain, fabric, construction materials that really supersede the medicinal side of the plant, which I think, has gotten the help and the support that it needs also here in PA. We also had a very supportive Department of Agriculture when it came to the rollout of our, original, test program via the 2014 Farm Bill that Obama signed. We were one of the first states to do that. So here we are, 8-10 years later, and you're seeing what that looks like for Pennsylvania having been willing, as the Department of Agriculture, to really support the industry. Here we are now. There's even more money available, and we want to continue to see that, and to demonstrate those outcomes.
Cool. So surely hemp isn't just in the Department of Agriculture. Like this industry should be the concern of many other different governmental departments. Do you have connections to other, like the economic department, or, where else can you find funding for this group, and how else can you sort of, foster that collaborative approach in government?
I think that's one of the goals and strategies for the communication plan, is to leverage what we have accomplished with the Department of Ag and have access in the room with action committees, with the governor, with all these other state and federal departments, so that the hemp industry and all its participants become involved.
Right.
And if we can get PA on the map, right, then when these large USDA opportunities come along, will be speaking from a great platform. So, the more we can do to promote PA, it helps us at the federal level for funding.
So can any of you predict when we'll have a big processor here in the state?
Working on it.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think that is also a key metric of what success looks like, right? So trying to attract investment in PA does mean looking to attract investment in infrastructure that we need. And then that will also have that snowballing effect that once we get a processor here, which will have a great rural economic impact in wherever it ends up being located. But then from there, it's going to create other jobs, other manufacturing jobs. So
Right.
I think that's the goal. And whether that's 2 or 5 years from now, we'll see. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But it is going to happen, and we're committed to making it happen. And so for me, another metric of success is when I'm driving down the highway and every other field is hemp and not just corn or soy. And it's a good mix, and when everybody doesn't even think anything about it anymore. Like when it's just as common as all these other crops, and we all look back and say, what was the big deal?
Right. Like the goal is to make hemp ubiquitous and boring, right? Just like no big deal. Yeah. So how do you maintain momentum once this, this grant project is complete?
It's actually one of the reasons why I'm super excited for PHAC's involvement in this, because we are the perfect vehicle to make sure that the positive impacts of all of the materials that are created through this grant continue to be implemented and used indefinitely, right? Because our mission and our goal is to have a robust and vital hemp industry here in PA. So while we're grateful and this grant is going to provide us a bunch of resources that we would not have ordinarily have, our goal is to not only fulfill the mission of the grant, but to actually use that and expand upon it and continue to promote Pennsylvania hemp forever. I mean, that's what we're here for. And the more we can build the industry, the more we build hopefully support for the industry, and our organization and membership as well. So we're here to be the voice of the industry, and to be helpful to farmers who are looking to get into it, for manufacturers, for consumers, for everybody, and to just also reiterate something very important that Cameron said, is that Pennsylvania Hemp Industry Council, while this grant is focused on those 3 verticals, we do represent the entire industry, including the cannabinoid side of things. So none of this is to alienate them in any way, but part of what we need to do is also get some reasonable regulations, here in the state to help that side of the industry as well, and do other things that will, in conjunction with this grant, get animal feed approved, right? Is something that we can do in the now moment, that in conjunction with this promo grant will start opening up more and more markets here in Pennsylvania, and let's give farmers a reason to grow it.
Yeah, right.
And that's something that's not specific to the PA, Hemp Industry Council either. We're seeing that nationally, that, in 2018 and 19, the fervor around, CBD and cannabinoid production in hemp really took center stage. And you saw very little, if any, investment into fiber industrial applications for the plant. And now you're sort of seeing that knee-jerk, sort of reaction nationally. There's a lot more interest and a lot more focus now on the fiber industrial applications. So again, that's not, to Erica's point, that's not something that's specific to PA Hemp Industry Council. And we're following suit with the rest of the country and finally putting some investment and some time and energy into the what we believe is a large potential for the plant in the fiber industrial side.
Right. We just need to roll this out a little more slowly and deliberately than we saw on the cannabinoid side.
Supply and demand in check.
Yeah. Cynthia, you were going to add something?
I was, and I think it's a little ironic Eric, that you're doing this interview when I think about who has been the best at promoting hemp in the state of Pennsylvania. You certainly take that award. And I think you'll be an integral part of helping us maintain momentum, right? And we're hoping you'll be a part of this grant work that we do between now and the end of June.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, obviously, my heart is in the hemp industry. My heart is also in Pennsylvania. And yeah, I want to see our state, to be at the top of the list, and but also for the whole country and the world, right? So it's good work that I get to do, and I'm grateful that I've met all of you and just get to watch what you're doing because, yeah, it's just inspiring the passion and the work you've already accomplished, and I'm excited to watch success. All right. Well, is there anything else you would like to share with our audience about the new and improved Pennsylvania Hemp Industry Council and the project you're embarking on?
I think we do want to put a plug in that for people to stay abreast of updates of the grant, that they can visit us at our website, phic.org. We are now accepting membership once again, and we look forward to providing updates on our website and through all of our social media channels to keep everybody updated on the progress of the grant.
Awesome. So that website again was pahic.org.
Yep.
All right. We'll put a link up on the website for the show, on the show page for this episode.
Thank you.
All right. Well, it's so great to see all of you, Erica, Lori, Cynthia, Cameron, and Drew. Thank you for spending some time with me today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you.
All right, there you go. Here we are at the end of the show. Thank you for listening. You can learn more about the Pennsylvania Hemp Industry Council at pahic.org. You can always reach out to me with questions. Get in touch with me through email. Send an email to podcast@lancasterfarming.com. Oh, what else? Oh, in the beginning, I mentioned this new studio space that I'm working in. And in conversations with Cameron McIntosh, that you just heard, and his company, McIntosh and Drew Hemp, we are going to design and build some acoustic sound panels for this space. So I will let you know how that goes. I think it's going to be a fun little project. So if you want to get in on that or learn more about that or offer advice about building sound panels, email me. Send it to podcast@lancasterfarming.com. So thank you very much for listening. My name is Eric Herlock. I am the digital editor at Lancaster Farming Newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. Check us out online at lancasterfarming.com. Get yourself a subscription. Sign up for our newsletters. All of those things can happen at lancasterfarming.com. Okay, until next week, I will see you in the newspaper.
Industrial hemp. Industrial hemp.
Season 3, Episode 7 of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast is copyright 2023 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show is written and recorded, edited, and produced by Eric Herlock. And the music you hear throughout the show is courtesy of Tinbird Shadow. And today we had a little extra Tinbird Shadow help from, John Cougar Mellencamp himself.
That's success right there.
Ain't that America?